Gluware is pure software, and all our applications run from a web browser. So you don't have to install any software on your client. You can access all through a web browser. And I'm going to sign in here. When I sign into Gluware, it's going to bring me to the last place I was in the application. And here I'm dropped into my dashboard. So what I wanted to highlight just kind of quickly with dashboards is that it's super customizable. And what I've done here is just created a little customization to a dashboard I had, where this is my WWS webinar demo. I'm the only user on this system. Right now, there's no devices because I want to start from scratch and show you how easy it is to start automating. And then I have a text widget here. I can say what's going on, what's coming up. Gluware just participated in ONUG Spring. If you're interested, you can go check out some of that. You can pull in external widgets, you can pull in web pages, and you can even put in links to help your operational users when they sign in. So I'm going to move on because we'll come back to the dashboards, but let's jump into, I'll just say that the administrative tasks have been completed in this instance. So I'm not going to go through all that, but let me jump into Device Manager. What I will note is that Gluware is multi-user. So I'm signed in. And so everything I can do, my role-based access is tied to the way I've been defined in the system, right? So we have role-based access, and each user is assigned the ability to do specific things. Then it is also multi-tenant. Multi-tenant means you can have a different view for your LAN or your WAN or your data center, and you can assign different people to those. So this is a small lab network, and I only have 3 tenants in here, but I'm navigated to this particular tenant. In this tenant, there are no devices yet. So this is called our Device Manager app. What you want to do in Device Manager is add your devices. So you can add them one by one, you can import them, you can discover them, and you can push them via API. So I'm going to show a couple things here. I'm going to say, import. And so let's just say you have a list of devices. All we need is a name, an IP, and you can have the credentials in the file or handle them separately. I'm going to just drop in that CSV. It's just a list of devices. And here I have 20 devices that are now in the system. So it's in the system, but Gluware doesn't know anything about these devices except for what was in that spreadsheet. We haven't done anything with them yet. So what we're going to do in the first step here is select the devices and execute a device discovery. What happens in the device discovery, you're going to see the status here. Gluware is going to begin to interrogate all these devices. So let me double click in on one, and I'll jump into the log here. And what you're going to see is that Gluware is going to figure out what kind of device it is. And then it's going to run a series of commands. So it's going to look like, discover that this is a Cisco device. And then now it's going to do things like show version and show inventory. So it's looking at, again, show version. Gluware is very transparent in the sense that you can see everything Gluware is doing on a network device. And the text highlighted in green here is the output from the device. So it's very easy to kind of see exactly what's coming. Gluware is looking at the boot system, looking at the file structure. So it's interrogating this stuff and then pulling information out of that data. So for example, the serial number, the uptime, the SKU, right? So Gluware has interrogated the devices. And if you now look down into your grid of your devices, you can see there's 20 devices in the system. And then I have a column selector to determine what I want to see or hide. But I can see, multi-vendor network here, the IP addresses, the operating system versions, the name, serial number, SKUs, and more. Okay, so this is what we call your device discovery. So I just showed you one mechanism, which is, just dragging in a file, and then Gluware interrogates those. Let's look at another one here. I'm going to highlight the CSR1 here, and I'm going to navigate over to network discovery. What network discovery enables me to do is give Gluware a seeded device and then tell it to log into that device and look at the ARP table, CDP table, or the LLDP table. I'll just use ARP in this case, and start to do an ARP crawl of the network, looking at all of the devices in the network and then you have the option of then importing them into Gluware. So let's kick this off real quick. This is called network discovery, and this is a really important component. And I'll tell you, pretty much all our customer engagements, they're always surprised when they run discovery, because we find devices they thought were disconnected from the network. We find devices that they can't log into. We find devices that that are have network connectivity issues and other things. And so in the log here, it's telling you what it's doing. I'm going to switch over to the live, save the live result here. And you can see in this table, again, this is just a small network, but it is finding all of these devices, and it's finding them via the ARP table, and it's interrogating them so to determine what they are. Now in this lab network, I have a few devices that are Linux servers, so it doesn't understand those. Actually, the credentials, if you look at the log here, the credentials are not the same on those Linux devices. So it's actually an authentication failure as Gluware tried to connect to those. So this is network discovery, and again, very, very powerful for you to take a look at. I will say that what we've added to is, if you have things that are not managed, like let's say I have servers or IP phones or whatever, you can exclude subnets in the search, and Gluware will then ignore those subnet sets as well. So that's a quick look at network discovery. Let's take a look at another fun feature here that we call Adhoc Query. So with Adhoc Query, I'm going to select a set of devices here. I'm selecting devices of the same family, which happen to be Cisco iOS. And I'm going to execute what we call an ad hoc query. An ad hoc query gives you the ability to check devices instead of going manually device by device. So we're going to query these devices, and we essentially query from two main sources. We query their configurations, or we configure the running operational state. So let's take a look. Let's say I'm troubleshooting a BGP issue. I want to say, are these devices configured for BGP? So I have a couple saved queries. I'm looking at the configuration, and I'm looking for the term router BGP. So this is a regex based query. I'm just putting simple text in here, and I hit run. It runs nearly instantly because we've already saved all the configurations in our database. And now if I dive into here, I can see that there's one match, and I can see this guy is configured for BGP, right? So this just dramatically helps you when it comes to troubleshooting and finding that needle in the haystack when you have to search across devices. You can search your configs, and do more. So now let's take the next step and look at an operational state. So now the source is going to be at each device, and we're going to log into each device and run a command. In this case, show IP BGP neighbors. We're looking for state equals established, and I'm going to run my query. These types of queries take a little longer because Gluware is now initiating connections to all those devices, running the command, parsing the output, right? It takes, maybe a minute or so. I can say that this particular router has 3 neighbors, and these each have 1. I actually know because each of these point to CSR 1. If I was troubleshooting an issue, I can see here that CSR 155 does not have any BGP state established, and I can see, BGP is not active. So again, if I was troubleshooting, this could be my source to go and solve that. So ad hoc query is, again, a really powerful tool. It's not the only way you can do things, in terms of checking state or searching configs, but it's one of the methods very popular for troubleshooting. So let's cover one more thing here in this app, which is our integration with Cisco and our ability to talk to their API. So I have, let me select all the Cisco devices here, and I'm going to click on update support data. And I'm going to get a message saying that we're going to go talk to an external API. So this is one of the external API integrations we've built in to send data to Cisco to check end of life, end of sale, SmartNet status, and PSIRT information. We also use API integration in our OS manager for upgrades. So we're going to talk about a couple things here. So let's look at our results. So if I look at these devices and I scroll to the right, I can see the PSIRT like advisories, critical, high, medium, end of life, end of sale, and then contract status. So most of my lab is virtual, but let's jump into this 3650 switch here. And let's look at the Cisco data. So I can see that there has been an end of sale announced on that. So it's coming up here in October. So if I was concerned, if I was kind of doing lifecycle management, I would have to be aware of this, that it's coming up, end of sales coming up. So this is an example, end of life, end of sale. This is the PSIRT information. You can jump into these and understand that the PSIRTs or security advisories that have been issued from the vendor. So be aware of that. You can check it. And then if anything is at risk, you can determine what the workaround is. Maybe there's a config workaround. Maybe you have to upgrade your operating system. The last one here is the SmartNet contract status. This device is in our lab. It is not currently under a SmartNet contract. So, I don't have support from Cisco on this device. So wanted to show you that. The final thing we're going to talk about in Device Manager, I'm actually going to show you in another system because, again, I don't have much Cisco real hardware in this lab. I'm going to jump into this system here, and let me go to the dashboard so you can see real quick. In that, let me jump into this, and just to show you that there's 45 Cisco devices in this particular lab, right? So we've built in, because Device Manager queries, we've extended our query capability to look at Cisco's extended hardware information, so line cards and power supplies and other things. We also have the ability to check the smart licensing status on the device itself. So we've already collected that data, and now through Gluware, you have the ability to look at that data outside of the system. So let's jump over to our data export, and let's export the Cisco extended inventory list. So let's run that and download it. And then we're going to go to the Cisco license list. Sorry, I was missing the word license. Here we go. Run and download. So let me double click on this one. So this is the Cisco hardware inventory. So this is going to really help, license inventory. So this is all of the Cisco hardware in our lab and exactly what licenses are, enabled or not. So I can understand, when like a feature is working or not working, or if the feature is licensed or not licensed. This is again, it's quite a long list because you have each individual license on every device. So you get a full license report. Now let's look at that first report I ran, which is the Cisco hardware inventory. And as I mentioned here, you get the name and the description, and you get the serial number and the SKU and all of the other information, including things like end of sale, end of life, end of sale. And you can even scroll over here and see things like your power supplies and all kinds of other things. So these reports are tremendously helpful when it comes to understanding your inventory, understanding what's supported, understanding what you have licensed, what is going, end of sale, and all those things.